Hi friends, welcome to lesson 3, Social Inequality in Historical and Contemporary Contexts. Introduction. Social inequality is characterized by the existence of unequal opportunities and rewards for different social positions or statuses within a group or society. It contains structured and recurrent patterns of unequal distribution of goods, wealth, opportunities, rewards and punishments. Racism, for example, is understood to be a phenomenon whereby access to rights and resources is unfairly distributed across racial lines. Social inequality is the state of unequal distribution of valued goods and opportunities. All societies have social inequality. Social stratification analysis requires a macro-sociological perspective in order to view societal systems that make inequalities visible. Although individuals may support or fight inequality, social stratification is created and supported by society as a whole through values and norms and consistently durable systems of stratification. Objectives of this lesson. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand the persistence of social inequalities in historical and contemporary contexts. You will be able to analyze the indices of inequality like life chances and lifestyles. So let us begin our discussion with social inequality. Social inequality is defined as the imbalance of opportunities and rewards between a group, race or ethnicity in a society. Social inequality affects health, values, politics and more. Social inequality's existence of unequal opportunities and rewards for different social positions or statuses within a group or society. Social inequality has several important dimensions. Income, one of the dimensions of inequality, is earnings from work or investments, while wealth is total value of money and other assets excluding debts. The other important dimensions include power, occupational prestige, schooling, ancestry and race and ethnicity. In every society, some people have a greater share of valued resources like money, property, education, health and power when compared to others. These social resources can be divided into three forms of capital according to very famous philosopher Pierre Bourdieu, who was also from France, a very well-known French sociologist in fact. They are economic capital in the form of material assets and income, cultural capital such as educational qualifications and status, and social capital in the form of networks of contacts and social associations. Often these three forms of capital overlap and one can be converted into other. Sociologists use the term social stratification to refer to a system by which categories of people in a society are ranked in a hierarchy. This hierarchy then shapes people's identity and experiences, their relations with others, as well as their access to resources and opportunities. There are two main ways to measure social inequality. Firstly, inequality of conditions. Secondly, inequality of opportunities. The inequality of conditions refers to unequal distribution of income, wealth and material goods. Housing, for example, is inequality of conditions, with homeless and those living in housing projects sitting at the bottom of the hierarchy, while those living in lavish mansions and bungalows are on the top. Inequality of opportunities refers to the unequal distribution of life chances across individuals. This is reflected in measures such as level of education, health, status and treatment by the criminal justice system. Discrimination of an individual, community and institutional levels is a major part of the process of reproducing social inequalities of race, class, gender and sexuality. The task of contemporary stratification research, therefore, is to describe the counters and distribution of inequality and to explain its persistence despite modern egalitarian or anti-stratification values. The evolution of social inequalities can be understood by classifying various types of stratification systems like this. When we talk about hunting and gathering society, it includes tribalism, which included hunting chiefs, shamans and magic skills and other tribe members. This had very low level of inequality. When we talk about horticultural and agrarian society, which was further classified into Asiatic, feudal, slavery and caste, all these systems had high inequality. When we come to industrial society, which was further classified into class reflecting medium to high inequality, state socialism which showed low to medium inequality and advanced socialism which had medium inequality. Friends, let us now discuss about social inequality in historical context. As can be implied from the discussion so far, stratification system refers to the complex of social institutions that generate observed inequalities. The key components of both social stratification and social inequality systems are: firstly, the institutional processes that define certain types of goods as valuable and desirable. Secondly, the rules of allocation that distribute these goods across various positions or occupations in the division of labor. Thirdly, the mobility mechanisms that link individuals to occupations and thereby generate unequal control over the valued resources. Inequality is produced by two types of matching processes. The social roles in society are first matched to reward packages of unequal value, and individual members of society are then allocated to the position so defined and rewarded. In historical context, the social inequality can broadly be categorized on the basis of these factors: economic ownership of land, farms, factories, professional practices, businesses, liquid assets, humans, that is slaves, labor power, that is serfs. This has been written by German scholar Karl Marx and American sociologist Eric Wright. They have extensively covered about this. Political household authority is the another dimension. For example, head of the household, workplace authority, for example, manager, party and societal authority, for example, legislator, charismatic leader. The prominent proponents of this dimension were German sociologist Max Weber and German-British sociologist Ralph Dahrendorf. When we talk about the cultural aspect, the high status consumption practices like good manners, privileged lifestyle, and the French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu and American educator and sociologist Paul DiMaggio emphasized about these factors. Other factors like social access to high status social networks, social ties, associations and clubs, union memberships, etc. This was elaborated by British anthropologist and sociologist Lloyd Warner as well as the American sociologist James Coleman. Honorific prestige is also an important factor where the focus is on good reputation, fame, deference and derogation, ethnic and religious purity, and this was discussed by American sociologists Edward Shills and Donald Trueman. The English sociologist T.H. Marshall and American sociologist Rogers Brubaker discussed about civil rights of property, contract, franchisee and membership in elective assemblies, freedom of association and speech as factors of social inequality. American economist Gary Becker elaborates on human skills, expertise, on-the-job training, experience, formal education, knowledge as factors of social inequality. Now, when we discuss about slave system, it is very clear it is the oldest and most closed stratification system, which is slavery. Slave system refers to ownership of people as against the class system's ownership of people's labor. It involves a situation in which one group or individuals, often known as masters, claim ownership of another group or individuals called slaves, such that the privileged group or individuals take upon themselves the power to use, command, abuse and possess the fruits of the underprivileged groups or individuals' labor. In slave system, therefore, the slaves are the properties of their masters. In this system, vertical social mobility is exclusively closed and social statuses are determined absolutely by ascription. Children born to slave parents automatically become slaves by virtue of their parents' status. In ancient times, most people acquired status of slaves either through conquest or inability to pay debts. The need for more people on farmland encouraged slavery to thrive through the Middle Ages. People were deliberately hunted, captured and shipped as slaves, majority from continent of Africa to the other parts of the world. The global dimension of slavery eroded cultural authenticity. It increased inequality as well as brought about the underdevelopment of the third world countries at the expense of the development of first world countries, among other disadvantages. Today, slavery still persists in some parts of Africa, Asia and South America, where people are taken as prisoners of war in ethnic conflicts, where women and girls are captured in wartime or kidnapped from their neighborhoods for prostitutes and sex slaves, where children are sold by their parents to become child laborers, and where workers are abused, tortured and too terrified to leave because of deaths, among others. Let us now discuss about estate systems, which are also known as feudal systems, which are the characteristics of pre-modern, pre-industrial agrarian societies which were common in the continents of Europe and Asia in the medieval era through the 1800s. This system was based on land ownership because farming was the predominant occupation and there were no machines to produce goods. At the upper echelon were the landed nobility, that is those who owned large areas of land on which the serfs labored, and the lower cadre comprised the serfs, those who typically represent the poor under the arbitrary control of the nobles. Under feudal systems, to own land was to control power. Land was considered the property of God under the trust of monarch being God earthly representative. This was in turn consolidated in the hands of chief tenants or nobles. Estate systems were based on a very strong social structure as rooted in the belief systems that recognized the supremacy of God. It was believed that God had already established social order and it was not for any moral man to question such ordering. Instead, every man was expected to simply follow the divine ordering, whether favorable or unfavorable. In the divine ordering, there were different levels with respective different rights and privileges. For example, the serf, although not slaves, were subject to their feudal lords who had the power to control their behaviors. Since the serf had very little opportunity to change her or his social status, there was restricted social mobility in this system of social stratification. Estate systems thrived in Europe till French Revolution of 1789, which violently overturned long existing social order. The total abolition of the feudal estates, however, could not be achieved until the communists took over China in 1949 after decades of socio-political and economic strife, which has been mentioned by 𝗳𝗏 in his book in the year 2018. When we talk about caste systems, caste is the social stratification which exists only in India or probably some pockets of Asia. It is a system of classification which states that a person born into a particular position in a society and that no action on his or her part in raise or lower that position. The term caste is derived from Portuguese word casta, which means a group. When an individual born into a caste, he remains to be a member of the same caste forever. It is an ascribed group. Each caste has a name and is endogamous. The membership is by birth, and castes are arranged in hierarchy, and each caste has a fixed occupation. According to McIver and Page, when status is wholly predetermined so that men are born to their lot without any hope of changing it, then the class takes the extreme form of caste. 𝗳𝗏 𝗧𝗏 says that when a class is somewhat strictly hereditary, we may call it caste. M.N. Srinivas sees caste as a segmentary system. Every caste for Srinivas is divided into subcastes, which are the units of endogamy, whose members follow a common occupation, social and ritual life and common culture, and whose members are governed by the same authoritative body, that is the panchayat. According to Bailey, caste groups are united into a system through two principles of segregation and hierarchy. For Louis Dumont, the French anthropologist, caste is not a form of stratification but as a special form of inequality. The major attributes of caste are hierarchy, separation and division of labor. Max Weber sees caste as the enhancement and transformation of social distance into a religious or strictly a magical principle. For Adrian Mayer, caste hierarchy is not just determined by economic and political factors, although these are important. According to Iravati Karve, caste is a precipitate of at least 3,500 years of known history, however scrappy our knowledge of that history may be. most of our difficulties in our study of caste arise from the absence of historical documents and the poor quality of social historical studies of India. Castes are really caste clusters composed of smaller endogamous units or jatis. The number of jatis in a cluster varies in different regions of India. When we consider the details of ranking of castes in these regions, the absence of congruence in the order becomes evident. There is need for more regional and comparative studies. One of the most extreme forms of inequality which is part of caste is untouchability. It has been abolished under Article 17 of Indian Constitution. Let us now discuss about social inequality in contemporary context. In contemporary context, the most visible form of social inequality is reflected in class system. Class system is a common feature of industrial society because industrialization itself is a product of individual efforts in a free market resulting in differing individual wealth. By definition, class system is a system of stratification whereby people are classified according to their economic position. Generally, sociologists use income, wealth, type of occupation, level of education, lifestyle and material possession to categorize people into social classes. Class system was said to begin when individuals started amassing wealth to themselves at the detriment of others, thereby creating social inequality. Class system is more flexible and open than other systems of stratification such as slave, estate and caste system because it allows social mobility. This is because class system is based more on achievement than ascription, that is, the status is achieved and not ascribed by birth. Although an individual is born into a given social ranking in class system of stratification, such individual has relatively equal opportunity to move either upward or downward based on her or his personal efforts, knowledge and skills. While these qualities do not aid any movement in caste or slave societies, they often determine social mobility in class societies. The United Nations World Social Report 2020 elaborates on inequality in rapidly changing world. The factors of social inequality include technological innovation, climate change, urbanization and international migration. Technological change can be an engine of economic growth offering new possibilities in healthcare, education, communication and also productivity. But it can also worsen wage inequality and displace workers. The world is in midst of rapid, revolutionary and often disruptive technological breakthroughs. Advances in biology and genetics, robotics and artificial intelligence, advanced printing and other digital technologies are transforming economies and societies with unfolding and often unforeseen consequences. The potential of new technologies to foster sustainable development can only be realized, however, if everyone has access to them. However, the new technologies are reinforcing various forms of inequality and creating new digital divides. Access to basic technologies such as mobile phones has improved rapidly, but there are gaps in access to the internet and computers which still persist. The potential of new technologies is particularly strong for youth, but it can also widen the divide between younger and older people. The accelerating impacts of climate change are being felt around the world, but the poorest countries and groups are suffering most, especially those trying to eke out a living in rural areas. Climate change is affecting both the prevalence and depth of poverty, thereby contributing to inequality. It is making it harder for people to escape poverty and is increasing their vulnerability to falling into poverty due to price shocks caused by sudden changes in agricultural production, natural disasters, and environmentally triggered health problems. Urbanization offers unmatched opportunities, yet cities find poverty and wealth in close proximity, making high and growing levels of inequality all the more glaring. For the first time in history, more people now live in urban than in rural areas. Over the next 3 decades, all population growth is expected to occur in cities, which will also draw in rural populations through migration. This transformation has implications for every aspect of sustainable development, including inequalities. Cities are catalysts for economic growth, innovation and employment. However, the urban areas are more unequal than rural areas. In most cities and towns, areas characterized by high levels of wealth and modern infrastructure coexist with pockets of severe deprivation, often side by side. The urban divide has economic, social and spatial dimensions. International migration allows millions of people to seek new opportunities and can help reduce global disparities, but only if it occurs under orderly and safe conditions. Migration does not arise only from inequality or failed development. Middle income countries send more migrants abroad than low income countries. In general, migration takes off once countries have started to grow economically and develop. Industrialization and urbanization have long been associated with massive displacements of people, mostly from rural to urban areas, but also across countries. As countries develop, more people have the economic means to migrate. Improvements in education and access to ideas, information and affordable transportation often increase the desire and opportunities to migrate. Let us now discuss about the indices of inequality. Life chances and lifestyles are 2 significant indices of inequality. Let us first discuss about life chances. Life chances is a theory which was propounded by famous sociologist Max Weber. This term embraces the description of opportunities and recourses that one gets to improve the prevailing condition of one's life. Opportunities in this context refer to one's ability to access resources, both visible and intangible goods like food, shelter, clothes and education and health services respectively. Weberian's theory of life chances is extension of some of the Karl Marx ideas. They both agreed on the necessity of economic factors in our life, but Weber explained this theory with more detail. For him, social equality and social mobility are very important aspects to live a prosperous life. Many factors affect our life chances like age, race, ethnicity or gender, social class, status, caste, political influence and so on. Undoubtedly, economic factors play a crucial role as it provides resources to grab more chances in life. We cannot even generalize these aspects for everyone. Life chances is a subjective and abstract term, and it gets influenced by social stratification in many ways. When we talk about lifestyles, actually lifestyles defines our way of living. In the sociological term, lifestyle connects our habits with several social dimensions. According to psychologist Alfred Adler, the basic character of a person is established in his or her early childhood. Various factors affect our lifestyle like economic factors, place of living, our values and preferences, social status and so on. Accordingly, the social dimension started explaining our lifestyle more broadly by using social status as a distinctive element of status that is strictly connected with prestige. Lifestyle is so important because it is a visible dimension of our living standards. Our town, work, culture, income, etc. all are subparts of a social system only. Many psychological conditions also influence it. Our attitudes, interests, practices and principles affect our image in front of others. There is always our thought process which cannot be ignored. Apart from it, our actions are also fundamental in explaining our lifestyle. For example, we often use physical objects like expensive vehicles to articulate our social standards. Social inequality is the state of unequal distribution of valued goods and opportunities. All societies have social inequality. Examining social stratification requires a macro-sociological perspective in order to view societal systems that make inequalities visible. Although individuals may support or fight inequalities, social stratification is created and supported by society as a whole through values and norms and consistently durable systems of stratification. In this lesson, we have tried to understand social inequality in historical and contemporary times, and the indices of inequality like life chances and lifestyles have also been discussed.